This card has so much potential. I keep losing my words trying to describe the excitement I have for this card. It's probably the most hyped card I've seen since I started playing the game. What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today you're watching the Goon Squad as we take a look at Zoroark Vstar and several lists ahead of the release of Lost Origin on September 9th. So Zoroark always seems to have a good card in the Pokemon TCG at some point. We all know, the king, the true one. But Zoroark always has something good. And what's not to love about this card? It's a 270 hit point, 2 prize Pokemon for colorless. So with the tools available for colorless, it's a great time for Zoroark to be retyped. It has a 1 energy attack, double turbos in the format thanks to Arceus Brilliant Stars. That Baneful Curse attack does 50 damage for each of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. You'll see quickly that that is not a hard condition to fulfill. So we're doing 300 or 280, and that's before factoring Hawlucha, Leon, Choice Belt. We're knocking out everything. In the current game, Zoroark will be knocking it all out, and I'm so excited. And of course, to top it off, we have a terrific ability. While it's no Zoroark GX with its trade ability, World Champion, Phantom Star lets you discard your hand and draw 7. Does that sound familiar? It is. It's Professor's Research and an ability. We know how good that card is because it's been a 4 of since they've reintroduced it to the game, and having it as an on-call ability will surely help this card's playability. So, some things I wanted to point out with the deck. There's a few synergy cards that you should be aware of when you look at Zoroark. We've got Gapejaw Bog from Astral Radiance. When anybody puts a basic Pokemon into play, put 2 damage counters on that. Great for us, softens them up. Gengar from the new Lost Origin. So if it's in your discard pile and you have a free bench spot, you can revive it from your bench onto your bench and put 3 damage on it. So 1, it gives 50 damage to Zoroark, and 2, it can also be an attacker. So we also have the damage pump to take advantage of that creeping back ability. So say you have damage counters on something and you want to spread them around. Damage pump lets you take 2 damage counters and spread them to 2 more targets. So damage pump is essentially a 100 damage buff for your attack. So Gengar and damage pump go pretty hand in hand. Gapejaw Bog is obviously your stadium of choice. And a more cheeky one is Thornton. So the biggest issue I've seen is I play a Pokemon V on my going second. My opponent knocks it out before I can do anything. Oh no, I've lost. Well, now with Thornton, you can choose a basic Pokemon from your discard pile, switch it with one of your Pokemon in play, and any attached cards, damage counters, etc. remain on the card. So if you're not comfortable playing down a 2 prize Pokemon, you can discard it, play anything, play your bench out normally, set up, whatever, and then the following turn, you can Thornton, say Gengar. So we'll Thornton in a Gengar that was in play from last turn, switch it into a Zoroark V, evolve it that same turn because it counts the turns in play, and then now we're attacking. So then they still have to take 3 KOs in order to win the game, and we weren't screwed because we had to go second. So Thornton is a terrific card, and you really should try to include it. But let's dive into some lists. First one, pretty standard. So Zoroark is going to be doing its things. We have the Gapejaw Bog, but how we get damage counters on it's a little different. We have the Lucario from Brilliant Stars, puts 2 damage on itself, searches an energy and attaches it. And it also has a continuous Blaze Ball or Aurora Sphere Volley type attack. So you discard all energy and it does 60 for each one you discard. So Lucario is your 1 prize attacker, Zoroark is your 2 prize attacker, and DNC is to just buy us a turn. There's no need for Thornton in this one because you can also use Lucario to attack. Raihan, ability, attach, and then the previous turn. So you can get up to 220 and 250 and 280 rather quickly. Next up, we have Zorowa Keytram. I did throw in a copy of the new Delphox. So it is a Gmax rapid flow type attack. So it's 2 fire and a colorless. It does 120 to the active and 120 into the bench, but you have to put 2 of your energy into the lost zone. So I figured having a rapid flow attack on top of Heatran's big burst attack that does 70 for each damage counter on it, giving you options so you can swing really, really hard for a 1 prizer, or you can snipe down 2 Drizzles with the Delphox. And then, of course, you've got your Zoroark, and we have our Diancie to keep them from bossing us should we want to play our Pokemon V or we start a Pokemon V. It just gives us some options there. So we've split the Magma Base and the Gape Bog. Both of them play in. World Champion Bidoof here, of course. Next up, we've got, I'm calling this Zoroark counters. So we've got 2 Raikou because we're respecting Palkia. We know it's not going anywhere. So we're trying to evenly trade is the idea. So we only slap it down when we have to. So this one here would be if we could put the Zoroarks into play and then have Diancie, but they're playing Cross Switcher. So typically we just try to set up our Bidoofs, maybe one Zoroark, and then Diancies, and then try to respond with Raihans each turn. So then we can, you know, Lightning Rondo through them. Drapeon's in here because the Mew matchup could be dicey, and having a free attacker in those matchups could also be useful. Also useful versus Palkia, we'll see. And it attacks for 1 colorless less for each Fusion Strike, Battle, Single Strike, or Rapid Strike Pokemon your opponent has in play. So this is more counters, Lightning and Dark, 2 relevant weaknesses. Zoroark's going through Arceus every time, so I'm not worried about that. Next up, we have Leafeon. So this was one of the first ones that came to mind. Princess Curtain to protect us if we have to go second. Greening Cells, so we can spread our attachments around. Turn 1, it puts an energy on your board. Gardenia, of course, is 2 grass energy and drawing cards. Ivy Star on the Leafeon Vstar is a Boss's Orders, so we have the choice between a Boss's Orders or a Professor's Research in our Vstar powers, giving us more flexibility. And we play the Thornton, so we can swap things out, and those Crobats and Luminions are not huge liabilities. And of course the Hulucha, so we are going for the Okos here. We're just, you put something big in front of us, we're knocking it out. If you don't put it in front of us, we're chasing it down and we're knocking it out. Next up, your trusty Inteleon engine with a bit of cow sprinkled in. So it's mostly just trying to set up and do Inteleon things. There's nothing cute. There's Avery to break some boards open. You can put in Dunsparce, but I'm not sure how strong fighting will be going forward, so I just didn't include it at this time. Powerful energy to get you up there. Miltank to buy you a turn. Inteleons to do Inteleon things, and you can even scoop up net. So if you keep calling, they don't get the damage counters from Gape Bog, but you can always scoop up net them to reuse your Drizziles. When you replay the Sobbles, you get the damage counters that way. So you're getting multiple uses out of it. I figured it was at least worth mentioning. Whether it, you know, sees any play or not is to be seen. Next up, we've got Machamp. So it didn't really see much play, but Revenge Buster does an additional 140 damage if one of your Pokemon have damage counters on them on the bench. So between Machamp, between Zoroark, we have one hit KO potential between a 2 and a 3 Parizer. That's literally what we're going for. The Echoing Horns to run it back, the Gutsy Pickaxe to accelerate energy. This is also a 1-hit KO machine, and that's all it's going for. It's not trying to be, you know, techie. It's just, it's gonna hit you really hard and try to outpace you. Next up, we have Zorowark and Poleon. So Poleon's only here to really shut off the 1-prizers, the Lunatones, the Regigigas, you name it. It also can be an interesting attack going first, so Swirling Slice, 130, move and energy, so you can also set up a Zoroark. Diancie in case you go second, and you don't see the Empoleon. Avery's just to break up some boards. Again, it's Zoroark doing Zoroark things here where we're trying to hit for really big numbers, but Empoleon might be able to buy you a turn with the new Comfy engine coming out, the Lost Zone engine. So Empoleon can shut that off. It can shut off, you know, the Reggies, the Lunatones. It'll give you a chance to set up and get going. So that's the main idea here. And then when you're done with it, should it survive the turn, you can always Thornton it into a Bidoof or Thornton it into something else, or Thornton in one of those things to another Empoleon and get more use out of it. So depending on how the game is going, you might need more of them, but that's the main one. And of course, this one here just seemed very synergistic. So let's say Mew rears its ugly head or Psychic rears its ugly head. Dark is phenomenal. Umbreon V's Dark and 2 colorless has an attack that does 80 plus 80 more if any damage counters are on it. So I figured it plays into the Gape Bog. So in rare instances, I've had a chance to Dark Patch double turbo turn 1 with a Gape Bog, and I'm hitting for, what is it, 160? 170 turn 1. So, you know, they can catch people off guard. Typically, we're throwing the Diancie in the active, Zoroark doing its thing, and then we have the Professor's Research and an ability, and we have the Gust, the Boss's Orders and an ability. So we can just one-shot things. You might even want to cut the Thornton and throw in maybe an Echoing Horn, so that way you can kill something again. It's just, there's options here, so they figured like they play into each other rather well, and giving yourself multiple weaknesses is always good. Next up, this is probably the most likely you'll see, minus the Zacian, but again, I put it in there anyway. So this is just straightforward Oko machine. There's nothing cute there. Again, it's just straightforward. There's no fluff. You have your Zoroarks, you have your Diancies to protect you going second in the first turn of the game. You have your world champion Bidoofs, your Crobat for some dig, your Hawlucha for some push, some Manaphy for bench protection. Zacians might include, because if we do go first, we would like to see additional energy attachments on the board. Psychic is in this deck, so Gengar's spreading attack, spreading curse, or whatever it's called, also allows you to attack, or you can use Diancie to do 20 and then draw 2 cards. So give or take the situation, you do have attackers in this deck. Overall, I did really like all of these lists. There was ones I left on the cutting floor: Samurai Vstar, Jolteon VMAX, Rapid Strike Urshifu. There's a few more as well that just... I left 10 lists behind in this process, but I'm hoping that some of these will kickstart the tires, get everybody thinking about Zoroark. The card is really, really good, and I think it's a card you should invest in because its damage is still going to be relevant going into the little EX format. So if you like the content and you stuck around to the end, I just want to say thank you. You guys are awesome. If you enjoy the content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below, and tell me how you're going to play Zoroark in the coming weeks.